All right. Who's shipping off in this crowd right here? Everyone probably raising their hand. All right. Come down. Who's not shipping out off in this crowd here? All right. We got a couple here. Who's going into the National Guard, Army National Guard, Air National Guard? Okay, no one here. No one's taking the same oath of enlistment. All right. Regardless of this first or second time in this room, it's been a long road, right, for everyone here. A lot of time went into accession, right, to the armed forces here. Time away from work or school or other things, missed opportunities and obligations. But that translates to well over 100 points of eligibility that they showed proficiency to our staff members here at some point, and multiple visits back to the MEPS. And when did you wake up this morning? When did you wake up? Yeah, pretty comfortable out there, right? They're still standing. For a lot of them, you're going off to base training. Your day just started, okay? Something you're going to have to get used to. I'm pretty sure you already briefed yourself on that, all right? But regardless of that, all right, congratulations on making here. For getting into this room takes a lot, all right? That translates to a lot of things, all right? But we want to say thank you for making those personal sacrifices, but more so for the ones you'll be making in the future, right? The Armed Forces is going to ask a lot from each and every one of you. As you already observed here, as civilians, we compress quite a lot into a 24-hour period, so to say. Really the same flavor out there in the real world. They're representing a very small fraction of Americans as well, with roughly 360 million or so Americans that call the United States their home today. Last fiscal year, 2015, all right, we only saw about 410,000 Americans walk across the deck of the MEPS, swear in just like they are going to be doing here in a few moments, and ship off to basic training. That's 410,000. You might think to yourself that's a big number, but in comparison to the size of our country, it's 0.06% of that. All right, 0.06%, and it's safe to say that a small part of that number, even though we got a big crowd today, is represented by everyone here in front of us. All right. But what I asked them to know isn't these arbitrary numbers, these flashy statistics, right? Because the succession ratio can fluctuate depending on current events around the world. But what we want them to walk away with knowing today, okay, is something much more substantial, right? The privileges that they're earning today. That'll be with them for the rest of their lives or wherever they go, right? Faithful and honorable service into our armed forces, okay? Such as upholding the values and traditions the services that they're going into. Okay, as an all-volunteer force as it remains today, it isn't a right, and it certainly is not an entitlement to be a part of those. It's a privilege. It's a privilege to be a part of their history, their heritage, and their traditions, and soon afterwards begin to contribute to, in what I think some very real ways, some very tangible ways, and for some in ways they might not have even thought of. But above and beyond that, though, we as service members here have an extremely important responsibility, duty, and obligation, and that is to preserve life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for that very same 360 million Americans by supporting and defending, yes, the Constitution of the United States. Of course, something that we don't have in the back of our minds every single day. We don't give it much thought, but it is in their oath of enlistment, all right, and it's there for a very good reason. What's about to happen here, though, in a few moments, is that we're going to transcend roughly 239 years of history, heritage, and tradition as they repeat the words of the oath of enlistment after me for their first or second time doing this. I want them to recognize that you're about to be part of a lineage. It's a lineage of men and women that stem way back into our colonial days of America. It spans everything in between to where we are right now. And the reason I choose the word lineage is because I find there's something common, shared down all the generations of our armed forces, and that's your oath of enlistment. The words have changed throughout the decades and centuries, certainly, but the commitment within that oath of enlistment, the commitment to support and defend the Constitution, has remained unchanged virtually. And this was being shared down to the ages, and everyone here, all right, is making up the next generation of our armed forces. Right. So, applicants, you ready to do this?
Yes, sir.
Does anyone have any questions?
No, sir.
Applicants, 10. I got 2 questions before I begin. Now I need to hear yes or no. First question: have you been briefed on it? Do you understand the DoD applicant briefing on separation policy and restrictions to personal conduct in the armed forces and UCMJ articles 83, 85, and 86?
Yes, sir.
Do you take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion?
Yes, sir.
Raise your right hands. And in unison, repeat after me. I state your full name.
I, Tony Johnson,
Do solemnly swear or affirm
do solemnly swear
that I will support and defend
that I will support and
the
defend
Constitution
the Constitution
of the United States
of the United States
against all enemies,
against all enemies,
foreign and domestic,
foreign and domestic,
that I bear
that I bear
true faith
true faith
and allegiance
and allegiance
to the same,
to the same,
and I will obey
and I will obey
the orders of
the orders
the
of
President of the United States
the President of the United States
and the orders of
and the orders
the
of
officers appointed over me,
the officers appointed over me,
according to regulation
according to regulation,
and the Uniform Code,
uniform code,
military justice,
military justice,
so help me God.
so help me
All
God.
your right hands, everyone give them a round of applause, right? Give yourself a round of applause.